Welcome to Ladies Who Question, and we've got a bunch of stuff, really a bounty of stories to talk about, all sort of celebrity and other, that kind of thing. So we're keeping it light this time because I think we need to. How's that?
I totally agree.
Okay. First thing is, as you call it now, B&B, Blake versus Baldoni.
Right.
Lively versus Baldoni. My God, every day there's something. She's filing something new. Yeah. There's some other new wrinkle.
It's crazy.
We're recording this on Friday, the 21st, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so, and then I think yesterday there was a new amendment or something to the filing. I can't even keep track of all the legalese. You've got the skinny on this, don't you?
Well, I think I do. As the case escalates with new allegations about discomfort on the set.
Discomfort.
Another amended complaint was filed in New York Tuesday by Blake, claiming she isn't the only woman who experienced discomfort on the set.
Oh, that's right. Two other women.
So there's two other women.
Unnamed.
That will not come forward.
Well, it's not up to her to do the naming, that's for sure.
Okay.
I mean, that's not her position to name women if they do not want to yet be named.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, she...
Well, no, she can't just blurt out names.
No.
So
not without their permission, and that's up to them.
Right. So Friedman, who is Baldoni's lawyer, says, well, they're faceless, they're nameless, and they haven't come forward yet. I was just listening to Billy Bush's podcast, and he was interviewing somebody on there that's a TikToker that all she does is TikToks on the B versus B.
Oh, Top Sleuth.
Yes,
that
Top
was
Sleuth.
It. Yeah.
And she
my gosh,
said
she must be following this just riveted.
Totally.
Right?
Did you listen to it too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where she said, well, I think I know who they are. They were kind of smaller support roles in the movie, actresses. And there was a text that one of them sent to Baldoni after the film wrapped that said, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really enjoyed working with everybody. It was just gushing about how she enjoyed her experiences with Baldoni.
And that was the one who played the younger Lily.
Yes.
That was what this Top Sleuth young lady who has the podcast was surmising.
Yeah.
I guess not really alleging, but surmising.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're good with those legal terms.
Well, and that's not really a legal term. It's just...
Okay. So she's alleging these are the people that Blake is referring to. So she's trying to rope more people onto her side who will come forward. Interestingly enough, they were interviewing the other support actor in there, the waiter that she fell in love with, remember?
I didn't
you
see
didn't
the
watch
movie.
it. Okay, this guy was somebody that she fell in love with during the movie that she used to date years ago, and then they reconnected in a restaurant, and he was being interviewed. And he said, okay. And of course, the first question is, whose team are you on? And he nothing to do with it. He said,
oh, someone came up to him and said, are you Team Blake or Team Justin? Oh, and he
was actually being interviewed on a major network. And he said, no, I'm not involved.
No comment.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Could you imagine?
Who wants to get involved in that mess?
I know. So Blake said these women have confided in her about their uncomfortableness during shooting the movie. A new document contains previously undisclosed communications with Sony Pictures and Baldoni's production company, Wayfair Studios, and multiple other witnesses. Notably, the new version adds a defamation claim against Baldoni. So that's kind of what Blake dropped in terms of her amended complaint.
And it's all out there in public.
Yeah. There's a judge that threatens to move up the court date if lawyers can't stop. This is a quote. If lawyers can't stop matter being litigated in the press.
I think that would be marvelous.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Just get it done because nobody wants to keep on hearing about this. I mean, we're talking about it.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Like, just it's kind of to the point where they're disclosing so much. I don't know who's right or who's wrong. I have a certain feeling about it at this point, but get it over with. Get it done.
Let's just move forward.
Yeah, and or shut up and keep it private. Plus, we'll talk about it later because we're going to talk about some of our feelings about the SNL 50. Some highlights. It was pretty fun. She and Justin or excuse me, she and Ryan, her husband, were there in the audience. Should we just talk about that right now? Since
it's
we're talking
appropriate.
about her? Yeah. And they were doing crowd. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler were doing crowd work, and of course it was rehearsed ahead of time. Everybody knew what they were going to, blah blah blah. But they say to Ryan, "Hey Ryan, how are you doing? Or how's it going?" And he goes, "Why? What have you heard?" But in a jocular kind of way. And then of course she looks over, all shocked, like, "What?" I mean, it's all a setup. And then I heard that Wally, the card guy, you heard this too.
Yes.
Yeah, would you want to say? I mean,
well, that wasn't supposed to be said. And
Ryan had changed the line from what it was, and Wally knew that. But Wally was being interviewed by some Australian TV station or radio station, and the guy said, "Oh, what was the deal with that?" He goes, "Oh, well, actually, that wasn't really the line that was initially planned. Ryan asked to change it to that." So that was Ryan asking to bring it up and make light
of the situation.
Yeah,
right.
And everybody's interpreting it that way. Everybody I keep hearing, they're not saying that it was just fun. They're like, he chose to make light of this
serious situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it seemed inappropriate. But we may as well talk about it, now while we're talking about the situation.
The situation.
So anyway, where were we? I'm sorry. Moving up the court date.
Right, which I think they should, because everything's out in the open. They say that this is going to be bigger than Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, which it definitely is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, theirs was nothing like this.
No, because it just wasn't. It was big because of the courtroom cameras.
Right.
That's what made the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial a big deal, because they were televising it. This is a big deal because neither one of them will shut up about, here's this, here's that, here's this, tit for tat,
Exactly.
Oh, just go to court already, or settle already.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if they're going to allow cameras.
If it goes to court?
If it goes to court, which I don't know. People are kind of, who knows? Public opinion is tied. So I guess, that's
according to,
I don't know.
Oh, that's okay. But
some podcast.
Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. And I was going to say one other thing. I know.
What?
Who has the rights to the movies?
Well,
who has the movie rights? Because this could be,
does. No, that's
to their movie. This story.
Well, the woman, the author.
No.
So
who has the right to make a movie out of B versus B? I mean, somebody's out there going, "Oh, I want to make this movie."
Oh, wow!
Because I want to see. I would like to see it play out.
Oh, okay. Because actually, the rights for this one is kind of where this all.
That's right. We could talk about that too. The author of the book, who sold this
to Justin,
yes,
Baldoni, yes, and he had it, but she wanted to wrestle the rights away, and that's why she was strong arming, and that's a lot of the argument about how she turned everybody against him, or she was trying to turn people against him. And apparently, this is hearsay. Right. Okay, so we've heard, it's being talked about that she did this also on Gossip Girl. So turned against, I forgot which person. Oh, that actor who I've never watched Gossip Girl, but I heard that actor who, he sort of was like her
Ben Kingsley?
boyfriendish. No, you probably know better than I do. Anyway, he sort of played her boyfriendish, but he was from the other side of the tracks or something, or his dad was, I forget. Where was I going with this?
Well, were you talking about the interview? There was an interview that they keep playing where she was quoted as saying something to the effect of,
I like to go in as an actress and then I wrestle power away.
Right. Basically, I want more control and I want to interject and I'd like to produce. So it's kind of her MO when doing a film, because she wants to have more control.
Yes. And that, I mean, God, I hate to think of someone's words from that many years ago coming back to haunt them when they're just being candid about who they are and what they do. But this is what she tried to do in this situation.
She did.
And she used the subject matter against him, is using.
Right.
Of the film. It's so very involved, and it's so multi-layered.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's been confusing, at least for me, to try to, not
very
that I need to
much
pick
so.
a side, but you kind of end up doing that a little bit, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where we leave it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of all for now with them, or?
I think so. And I think that there should be a gag order.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? Why isn't there
I don't
one?
know. I mean, there's just too much information out there that's confusing for both parties. And
I wonder why they don't do that. I mean, we don't know anything about the law,
Right,
so we
no,
don't understand. Maybe there's some sort of reason why they can't be restrained.
Mm-hmm.
Either shut up or settle it or go to court.
right. I totally agree.
So that's where we are. The ladies who question, that's where we are.
Yeah, get on with it. That's what we're questioning. Why isn't it like over and done? Yes. So we can move on. And every time we turn the morning television on, that's the first story.
That's right. Nice wrap
That's
up.
pretty scary.
And yet, it doesn't stop us from talking about it.
I know.
But it is
Okay.
fodder.
So now we can
Yeah.
move on.
Okay, let's move on to something equally unappetizing.
All right. We're talking about all the scandals.
Scamanda.
Scamanda.
So part 4, the final part of the ABC mini series, whatever you want to call it. Sort of a mini doc, really. It was. Wasn't it?
That's kind of how it's filmed.
Yeah.
It's kind of like partially fabricated, but mostly it's the real people stating their case.
Well, they had reenactments.
Reenactment. That's what I was looking for.
And then they had the real people who were actually the donors and the church people and all the other people.
Right.
And some directly involved, like Alita.
Right. Oh, God,
Being
poor
interviewed.
Alita.
Oh, man.
That's what I'm leading with, is Alita.
Poor Alita. Great. Let's jump into Scamanda. So that it got wrapped up last night, and it kind of ended sort of how I wanted it to. But anyway, let's do. You want to do it chronologically?
Yeah, let's break it down. So at
September 2016 is how it started. Or
Right.
It was when it picked up.
Right. So on last night's show, Alita, who is the ex-wife of
Corey.
Scamanda's husband, Corey, who Scamanda was the nanny, gets full custody.
Yeah, I was happy to see
I was like,
that.
hooray for that.
Now I have a question. Well, she got full custody because there was something about bad behavior,
Right.
on a boat.
Alcohol involved, and somebody was drunk. Like it had nothing to do with the case or Scamanda scamming people.
No, it had
was
to do with bad behavior on Scamanda, Amanda, whatever, and Corey and other people that were on a boat, and the child was there. Well, young lady, I mean, she's a teenager at that point, right? Which one is Jessa? Was it?
Yeah.
Was there, and Jessa goes and makes this public or whatever, or tells her mother, and her mother goes to court, and bam, gone. So it must have been really bad behavior, but there wasn't a further explanation about that.
No.
For whatever reason, but it must have been pretty bad for her to wrest custody away from them after all they put her through.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, poor Alita. They made her look terrible throughout the whole duration of this, and now finally she gets her child back.
Yeah.
So that was great.
They being Corey
and Scamanda.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the house is raided. They open with the house being raided, but she's not arrested.
She's not arrested, and what I understood from the raid is it was tax evasion.
Well, yeah.
They grab all the paperwork, figure out where she was getting her money from, wire fraud, tax evasion, and that's how they got her.
Well,
Had nothing to do with like.
Isn't that interesting? That's how they got Al Capone too. Was taxes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And I mean, that was.
Yeah, that's how they get mob people.
Yeah. I find that fascinating,
Yeah.
but at least they can get him on something. I was so disgusted when they interviewed the policeman who was involved, who was doing the investigating.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And he said, I figured she just can't be trusted. She's going to keep doing this again. And he said, and darn it, if as soon as they left the house, the police, after the raid, she was back on
her blog.
That's right. The moment they left, back on Facebook, back on her blog, back. This is what's going on with me now, and I'm still so sick. Of course, she didn't say, "Oh, the police raided my house," but like, "Oh no, we have to do this." There was some sort of one of those pathetic, lying pleas. So,
Yeah, she absolutely felt nothing and not intimidated by the police coming in and raiding her house. It was like, oh, and I'm so sick, and she's making up some more story to get more money.
what a sociopath.
Oh,
God,
my God.
then the church cuts her off. I was glad.
Yay.
Yeah.
Finally, they started figuring it out. So what does she do? She moves to Gilroy, and she gets a job as a principal. Where was the vetting? Where was the back checking? Well, they're Christian schools, so they're not run through a public school system. They're
Right.
private. So I guess they have standards that are different from hiring a sexual predator or whatever. I mean, the
Yeah.
background check, if it was only 1 or 2 towns over, I
Well,
mean, they're 30 miles apart.
That's right. If anybody who doesn't know, Gilroy is about 30 miles south of San Jose.
Yeah.
And it's not like you can't get information or you don't hear. But
Just call the other school. I mean, I don't
know.
get it.
I
And
don't-
she's hired as a principal?
as a principal of a Christian elementary school, I was absolutely bamboozled. I went, what?
In this day and age? I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So she's hired on. Well, the scam starts again at this new school.
Oh, now this was sickening.
Yeah.
Absolutely sickening. There's another teacher there
Yep.
who legitimately has cancer
Yep.
and is suffering.
Yes.
And everybody in the school really loves this woman and they support this woman. And then they have a school fundraiser for the two, because by this time Amanda's like, oh shit, well, I do too. And I'm,
Oh.
So of course, school
Yeah.
fundraiser for them. And the funds got split down the middle.
Like within 2 or 3 months of her being hired, she starts her scam all over again.
Yep.
The cancer, the money, the whole shebang. Unfortunately, the other teacher passed away.
And the other teacher passes away. And after having to split the money,
that her family could have gotten.
I'm not sure if that made me the most angry and just nauseated out of this whole scam thing, because legitimately this woman who probably needed, her family probably needed the funds to
Right.
pay off these bills for her own legitimate cancer hospital bills, etc.
And on another note, there was a student, a parent at that school whose son had a very rare, unusual disease.
Early Alzheimer's.
Yes.
And the kid was only about, 10, 11, 12?
Right. Yeah. And she was also doing fundraising, or she was receiving donations, but she thought she would, join forces with Scamanda. There was something where she ended up finding out that the principal was a scam artist, but not right away. Remember?
Who?
The woman that had the son with Alzheimer's. Because she needed money too. His medical expenses were huge.
Yes.
And
I didn't quite get the connection between all that. It was sort of
either.
just, I think she was pumping them for information about different things, or that's that was, what does let me just look at the note that I had on that. I put preying on the parents for information, but I didn't really know about what. Some things were just talked about so quickly, and I just didn't get it all, and I was not going to watch record it and watch it back. But
No.
it didn't seem to be as central to the horror of this whole story at this school, unlike the other teacher who had cancer.
Right.
So I didn't really delve into it.
Okay.
But she was doing something nefarious that had to do with this poor child who had early onset Alzheimer's. It was sickening.
It was sickening.
One more thing.
And then the reporter started doing some digging. Remember how she was pretending that she wanted her child to go to school there, so she was calling the school?
I loved that.
I did too. And Amanda found out about her, and she filed a restraining order against her.
Of course.
Oh my gosh.
And said a lot of really untrue, malicious things in her, because they were showing some of the highlights of what she had
What the reporter was
on the restraining order.
Oh, right.
And it was just kind of like, what? Making up all this stuff, saying she was harassing her and using these, whatever. It was all, just more spun lies,
How this woman could keep going and going and going to the point that where she was blows me away.
You just wonder.
One town to the next, so close together.
So much energy expended.
Oh, yeah.
Being a horrible person.
Right. And then we kind of go to the part where she is
Well, July 2020.
Okay,
She's
July 2020.
indicted
Yes. Okay.
of wire fraud and bankruptcy fraud.
That's too bad that's all she got indicted for.
I
You would think it would be
know.
more, but I guess that's how the laws
I
are.
know. Like I don't know how they would pursue something like people willingly donating. That just comes under the scheme or the headline of you should have known better.
Buyer beware.
Buyer beware.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And so that one friend, Rebecca, she said she had donated anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000.
Yeah.
I kind of gasped when
Yeah.
when she was being interviewed. So she pleads guilty, and she
Finally.
gets 60 months, which translates to 5 years, and that is so much more than is necessarily recommended. Usually,
Right.
it's like
18 months was the recommended sentence.
She gets
And the judge is like, no.
no. You're
This
a
is-
really bad person.
And there was quite a few.
Oh, plus restitution.
Oh, yes. She has to pay everybody back.
Yeah.
And there was quite a few people with impact statements.
The victim statements.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Those were
Yeah.
heart-wrenching.
Well, yeah.
heart-
How could you sit
heartrending.
there and listen to your best friend, your stepdaughter, who had cancer? It was just passionate, pouring their hearts out about how their lives were so jilted by her.
Yeah. And angry. And she just sat there and she just, whatever, like, oh, well. I liked what, I can't remember which woman, she said, oh, yeah, when she gave her statement, Scamanda gave her statement, oh, I'm so sorry, and, yada, 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 basically. And the woman says, she's not sorry. She's just sorry she was caught.
Perfectly said.
And it
yes.
really summed the whole thing up.
It did.
Because she doesn't understand. She's so detached from the reality of other people and other people's needs, or that for her, I'm doing armchair psychology here, but for her, it doesn't even resonate. It just doesn't land.
No.
She's
She's not living in the real world. I think, well, also, apparently she was doing the same thing in jail. Remember? They said that she was in jail and she was starting to talk about ailments that she had.
Oh,
I think she was trying to wiggle out of her sentence.
Well, I think that was to the podcaster. Remember,
that's right.
She handed
Podcaster.
her,
I'm sorry,
her card, and then in July, and then in 2022, that was when. Let's see, if I forget, she contacted her. She actually texted her.
Yes,
Amanda texted the podcaster Charlie, and they had all these conversations, and from that sprung the podcast of Scamanda, which is how I got introduced to it, and listened to all those. That was in 2022. Amanda contacts her, and they start having these discussions, and then the podcast drops in 2023. And I didn't listen to it until December of 2024, or whenever I did. Then everybody starts hearing all about it. Then in June 2024, she finds out Charlie, they're getting divorced.
Right.
I'm thinking to myself, really? Now, like,
Why now?
What happened, Corey? Does that get you out of her having to pay restitution? I'd love to know what finally.
Let's get an interview with Corey. No, I'm surprised the press haven't. Well, maybe he
probably said no. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I'm done with that, or whatever.
He's found somebody else too, by the way.
Well,
Yes.
You have some more deep scoops there, because I don't think they said that on the TV show.
Did.
Did they?
Yeah, I think he's found somebody else. Well, good luck to him. I mean, I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Oh God, he's an idiot, and he's beyond marriage number 3 anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I was stunned about? It showed the restitution was $106,000.
I know.
And I thought, no, I would estimate it to be 10 times that.
Right.
Because she did this for a long time. Maybe that's all they could trace.
But how could they live? Because they were basically living off of the donations.
That's right. Because they were in and out of jobs all the time.
In a very expensive area in California. At least they got her, and good luck.
Yeah. Well, the mom claims to know nothing. She knows nothing. She goes, oh, I went there with her treatments a few times. I'm thinking, a few times? You're her mother?
Right.
And you went a few times. So
Over
much
5
of this
years?
didn't add up.
No.
So much.
From almost the beginning.
Yeah.
So definitely buyer beware when you're making donations. It's sad now because people that really have cancer and need the help, you don't want to be questioning them, but
No, but
or whatever.
it's kind of the old one bad apple spoils the whole bunch.
Exactly.
Yeah. And to just put a little seal on this, a coda, in December of 2024, this little nutcase was released from prison.
She was.
And she was in some Texas prison. And she went to Southern California or some kind of like a halfway house or I don't know, something like that. So that's that.
I think she'll be back at it in some different type of scam, but
Of course.
she just can't live a real life.
No.
She's not in reality.
She's so detached from...
Well, somebody did say to me, a friend or somebody I was talking to, and they said, well, why didn't she just go to psychiatric treatment? I go, that would have been way too easy. Put her in jail.
She doesn't think anything's wrong.
No.
Oh, you mean from the judge?
Why didn't the judge just put her in a mental institute? I go,
Oh,
that
no,
would have
no.
been too easy.
No, because she has one of those borderline personalities or something where there's nothing that can touch this kind of person. That's kind of like the definition of borderline. It's almost like therapists go, I can't do a thing for them. This is the one that they least like to deal with because it's almost impossible to get to them, to make a change,
They don't think
to
they're
effect a
doing
change.
anything wrong.
Yeah, because they don't. And the therapist is like, I can't effect a change here because it's just a difficult personality. Difficult.
Yeah. So we
Minor
are
way to
going to
say
say
it.
goodnight to Scamanda.
Good
It's
night
over
and
done.
goodbye.
Yes. Adios.
Enjoy hell.
Right.
Let's go on to SNL, the 50.
Oh, yeah.
And I know by the time this airs, it'll have
gonna be
been
like old news, but-
yeah. But it was fun. It was long. I watched the whole thing. I stayed up late.
I did too.
Yeah.
I fell asleep a teeny bit. I missed maybe, 10, 15 minutes.
I didn't write down any of my highlights, so I'm going to rely on my failing memory. But
Okay.
I did like the crowd thing that Amy and Tina did.
I did too.
I'm not going to say anything is my favorite because I'm not even sure what was my favorite. I liked the John Mulaney Broadway thing when they were talking about New York City and they say, well, let's go back to 1975.
Yeah.
And so many different SNL players were involved in
They
that.
kind of went through
The
stages of their lives.
Yeah, and like how like New York City was just a crap hole in 1975. It was really a scary place.
was.
Yeah. And how it changed over and all the different eras and all the things that are attached to the New York City lifestyle. I thought they did such a good job with that.
Yeah,
And he's
that was really good.
bizarrely funny.
Oh.
He's just very funny.
He is.
How about you? I try to collect my thoughts about another one.
Well, I just loved it when they kept showing the people in the audience because it was everybody from Steven Spielberg to Cher, Kevin Costner, of course, all the comedians over the years, but they kept showing Cher and Kevin Costner. And then they were mentioning
lot.
that there was a concert the night before at Madison Square Garden and Cher was one of the main,
It was like an
acts.
SNL act, like acts that had appeared on SNL was the concert.
Oh,
I thought.
okay.
Yeah.
And then they're saying, Kevin Costner just had so much fun watching Cher last night. And did you hear those undertones?
I did. It was almost like they were linking them. Like,
Yes,
ooh,
they
they're
were.
a thing.
They were almost linking them. Like, oh my God,
Maybe they're just having fun.
yeah. But talk about a lot of major Hollywood players, producers, directors, actors, and comedians were all in one space.
I thought it was anybody who had ever hosted got an invitation for sure, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't think did Steven Spielberg ever host?
No, but he's such a big player. He got invited.
Well, you
Yeah.
know, yeah,
And I was like, yeah, it doesn't even seem like his gig, but
right.
he went.
What'd you think of the opening with Paul Simon?
I love that.
And why does her name escape
Sabrina
me?
Carpenter.
Sabrina Carpenter, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was so cool.
It was really lovely, wasn't it?
And so, of course, I had to Google Paul Simon. He's 83. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God.
Yeah, well,
It was so heartfelt, that song he sang, that I almost was crying.
the duet between the two, and I liked how it brought the two generations together.
Yes.
And beautifully performed.
It was really cool.
And honestly, for me, I have to say now that it's kind of coming back to me,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the highlight was Paul McCartney at the very end.
I was just going to say
really?
that.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I mean, first of all, I love those songs on which album is that? Geez. Anyway, the Beatles album, but Golden Slumbers, The End, and let's see, Golden Slumbers, and then and in the end. But there's a third one in there. Well, anyway, the triumvirate of songs that are in that on the album. He did that. And I didn't miss the other Beatles being on it. I mean, granted, he had backup singers.
Right.
You know, guys filling in the vocals.
Did that almost bring tears to your eyes?
Oh.
Me, for sure. I was like, I'm so glad I stayed awake for this.
It made me miss the Beatles so much in that era of sitting by. And this is a boomer moment. So if you're not a boomer, you can either tune this out or try to understand the moment. Because it was a place in time where you had your album.
Yep.
The big old, long play album, 33 1/3, and you opened it up or you looked on the back and you sat there next to the speakers and you listened to it and you read the lyrics.
Oh,
and you memorized.
I love that.
I
yes.
know. And that was,
the
you
lyrics
sat around
on
with
the
your
albums.
friends.
Yeah.
Or you're by yourself. And it encapsulated a time and space in your youth, our youths, that can never be duplicated.
Well, these generations coming up will never feel that.
No.
It's like humanity. It's like bonding with your friends. It's special moments without technology and just, I don't know.
Is it special because we think it's special because it's in our youth, or is it really kind of special because it was more pure?
I like that. I think it was more pure.
That's kind
there's no other interruptions or outside noise. It was just hanging out, being real, and enjoying it.
There weren't other distractions.
Right.
I mean, for the most part, sometimes you would just you'd get that new album and you'd slam it onto the stereo.
And the best part was the words in the album because then you got to learn them, and it was.
I loved all the liner notes when they would give background and who produced it and who was on. It just, and of course the lyrics. But I guess those were for me, the biggest highlights.
It really completed the show with the Paul McCartney.
Well, it did. It put this lovely bookend to it. It's you open with someone who was Paul Simon.
Both of our baby boomer people, Paul Simon and then Paul McCartney.
Yeah,
Paul and Paul.
Lorne is 80. Lorne Michaels is 80. So, it's that generation. I know Paul McCartney, I think he's in his 80s too.
Isn't
he? Yeah. So
he looked great.
Yeah.
That guy's been a vegan. He works out. I mean, they don't age. Some of them,
they do, but they're active and they're curious and they're still producing and they still want to do things. And I think that's the key to a lot of it is just being curious around about your surroundings and about whatever's happening and rolling with the punches, But what do I know? I'm not a philosophy major. I should have been.
Yeah.
That was what would have that gotten me? What job would that gotten me? Nothing. But anyway.
It was, we'd love to hear your thoughts about the SNL 50 because it was our age group. I mean, I'm just getting flashbacks of Chris Rock, who's 60.
Yeah.
When I'm like, what?
Great. Now you talk about who looks great.
Yeah. I was like, what? He looks exactly the same.
Exactly.
I mean, he's so funny.
He's still skinny.
And Eddie Murphy was in the audience. And
that was the other thing.
Okay.
How funny was that when Eddie Murphy was doing Black Jeopardy and playing and making fun? He was playing Tracy Morgan.
Oh, that's
right.
And
Tracy Morgan was next to him on Black Jeopardy, but Eddie Murphy played, as far as I'm concerned, Tracy Morgan better than Tracy Morgan.
Right. He did.
Oh my God, that was hysterically funny.
I remember him being on Saturday Night Live as a regular, and that's how he got his start.
Yeah. And he was a kid.
Funny.
He was like a teenager, wasn't he? Like 19? Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of our wrap up.
All the fun stuff from this week.
Yeah, at least the ones that we could just summon up right now.
Right.
I should have taken notes, but I can't take notes on everything. I just want to experience it.
Right.
Just feel it wash over.
That was a
me.
happy show. So we end on a happy note.
Very happy show. Okay, we'll check in with you next week and have all the haps, or at least the ones that we choose to talk about.
Okay, and if you want to hear anything special, let us know.
Show.
That's right.
Okay? Our show.
Yeah,
We
it is.
choose what we want to talk about.
You betcha.
Because we are the Ladies Who Question.
We are.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Harvey. Ladies Who Question is executive produced and edited by me, Lisa Dominique, and also executive produced by Holly Caulfield. Holly also does most of our research, and Claire Caulfield is in charge of technical assistance and social media. Music, My Lionheart. Sketch music by Florian Manx and Matthew Anderson. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe, follow, rate, and review Ladies Who Question on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Send your thoughts to ladieswhoquestion@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and our website, ladieswhoquestion.com.
All content discussed on Ladies Who Question are the opinions of Lisa Dominique and Holly Caulfield and should not be construed as advice of any kind. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as advice of any personal or medical issue for yourself or others. This disclaimer also applies to guests or contributors to the podcast.